As an awkward, grotesque 14-year-old, I was probably too young to play a game like The Suffering, but the benefit of growing up with divorced parents is that if they're not neglecting you, they're doing anything they can to outdo the other parent.
John, I want a divorce.
Divorce.
Part of that was me being allowed to rent any game I wanted from my local Blockbuster, which I've come to realize with age is where I was at my happiest.
Hi, how's it going today?
It started out okay.
Well, when you got a good video, it's bound to get better. Take care.
My day'll get better when this line starts moving.
Huh? Now, with it pretty well extinct, well, you get the point. While having the freedom to rent any game was wonderful, it occasionally led to some unfortunate consequences for everyone involved.
I'm going to die!
With that said, though, sometimes I rented a hidden gem, like The Thing, Army Men,
good to go,
or Mystical Ninja. I never actually returned Mystical Ninja, so the downfall of Blockbuster lies partially on me and my unpaid late fees. My bad. As great as those other games were, the one rental that stands out most in my memory is The Suffering. I still remember seeing the box art on the dusty store shelves and thinking, damn, that's gonna make me a man, and instantly grabbing the last copy. The game blew me away, and it matured me faster than my parents' divorce ever could. Like most happy childhood memories, it faded from my brain bank until something jarred it loose and all the horrors immediately came flooding back. That's when I quit my job, sold all my possessions,
got it, whoa! I fell on my booty!
And began the hunt to find a physical copy of the game, only to realize I wasn't willing to pay an arm and a leg for a temporary dose of nostalgia. After a quick web search, I was totally surprised to learn that the game is currently free and completely legally. All thanks to the US Air Force, you, and I, and the giant monster I have chained up in my attic that's a metaphor for my masculinity, can now play The Suffering for free. Say what you want about the bloated American military budget, but whatever they paid to give us The Suffering for free was worth every penny. Alright, let's get to the game. The Suffering revolves around Torque, a prisoner recently convicted of killing his ex-wife and 2 young sons. He has no memory of what happened, and the game will drop pieces of that puzzle as you progress, ultimately offering 3 different endings depending on how you chose to play the game. Did Torque kill his family? Did someone else kill his family? Or was there never any spoon at all? All thanks to some seriously aggressive exposition, we quickly learn that the prison is named
Abbot State Penitentiary,
and it's located on
Carnate Island.
An old prison on a cursed island is basically the perfect recipe for unspeakable things, so let's continue. The tension between the guards and inmates is immediately spelled out, to put it lightly.
Claims he blacked the whole thing out. A likely story. The needle's too good for him. Filthy inmate, they should all die.
And after some whimsical wordplay, all hell breaks loose.
I can understand a guy killing his old lady, but he popped his kids too. Deserves to be strapped down and dosed.
An earthquake of some sort hits the island and releases a number of monsters that all have unique connections to the island's past. Torque was a man that was sent to death row to die, and now is a man that has to fight with everything he has to live.
Sweet Jesus, what the hell was that?
From an offbeat, seriously unique storyline that still stands out compared to most modern games, to a variety of interesting levels that continue to feel fresh as the story plays out, The Suffering holds up really well. Its controls and gameplay mechanics still feel supernatural to play, unlike GoldenEye.
Shots fired!
And its interactive, real-time, choice-based gameplay, that's a mouthful, has real consequences on how things play out. Any horror game is only as good as its baddies, which we all know, and the enemies in The Suffering are on par with the best of survival horror. Everyone knows Nemesis or Pyramid Head, but why isn't anyone talking about these cutie pies? Oh, Alright, in order to learn about the present, we must first learn about the past, or something. The Suffering began as an idea to offer the player access to a darker side of life they normally wouldn't have the ability to exist in. A much, much darker side.
You're walking through an environment and then you're seeing visions of things that are, you don't maybe understand right away, but over the course of the whole game, come to create a sort of a full picture of, one man's tortured soul and the horrible historic events.
So few games take players on such a nightmarish journey full of monsters, madness, and morality. That's a good title for the video. Developed and released in 2004 by Surreal Software, who developed the critically acclaimed Draken series, which I unfortunately never played, I say in jest.
Like, your tongue weighs practically nothing, so how come you can't hold it? And, uh-oh.
You suck!
But I did seriously enjoy Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, more than most it seems.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
Game designer Richard Rouse said he wanted to make a game that would scratch the itch of survival horror, but focus more on being an action survival game. Seeing as series like Resident Evil took the survival action route to huge success, I'd say that Richard was probably onto something. The developers knew they had to really pull all the punches when it came to creature design, so they went straight to the top and hired Stan Winston, the man behind some of the most iconic characters in movie history, but I'll let him humbly elaborate.
Have been responsible for the creation of some of the most iconic characters in motion picture history.
I told you so.
From the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, the Terminator, the entire Terminator series, the Predator, the Queen Alien in Aliens, Edward Scissorhands.
Unfortunately, Surreal Software didn't last beyond the Suffering sequel, Ties That Bind, and after merging through a number of studios through the years, they eventually settled on a merger with Monolith Productions, which in my opinion are one of the most iconic developers out there, with releases like Fear and my favorite game of all time, Condemned Criminal Origins. The Suffering was published by Midway Games, which I'm sure you recognize the name because they absolutely swept the 90s and early 2000s. With iconic games you've probably heard of, like Mortal Kombat, Quake, Doom 64, Killer Instinct, Cruisin' USA. Midway Games does have a bit of a sad ending though. I'm sure you noticed their biggest hits came out 20 plus years ago, as they fell off a bit in the late 2000s. In early 2009, they filed for bankruptcy amid a number of messy lawsuits and fully closed down in 2010. Let's pour one out for our Midway homies. As previously mentioned, The Suffering opens with Torque, a mutton chop having absolute badass who unfortunately just maybe killed his family, maybe. We quickly learn who Torque is, why he's here, and about the divisive relationship between prisoners and guards. The CO, or corrections officer, Ernesto Alvarez, proudly speaks of what a piece of garbage Torque is, and that his claim of blacking out during the murder of his family is all an act. Once locked in his cell, Torque seems to rile up the entire prison without saying a single word. The surrounding prisoners are introduced, and they are the most vile group of people I have ever witnessed in a video game. Most of what they're talking about, I won't even show here, because I can't. You know what they say about evil dwelling in the dark? Well, it rings true here after an earthquake hits and knocks out the power. What follows is an onslaught of these just wonderful people. While this wasn't entirely a surprise, since the opening scene obviously wanted us, the player, to hate these people and want them dead, it was surprising to see all of this happen so quickly. I kind of thought these guys were going to be characters throughout the game, but, you know, they're not. This opening cutscene is just under 4 minutes long, and in that time we've learned who we are, where we are, why we're here, and who we're here with. I think it's brilliant storytelling, and in the world of hook them in the first 30 seconds, The Suffering does that to an expert level.
It's in here! Help me!
Immediately after you take control of Torque, a mysterious beast appears in a flash and tears the cell door down. This creature makes a number of appearances early in the game, and we do find out what, or who, this creature is shortly, but I won't reveal it until the game wants me to. We then meet the nicer of the two guards who were escorting Torque to his cell, but things don't go so well for him. Perhaps he shouldn't have been so dedicated to his job, huh?
Back in your cell. Everything's under control.
Immediately after the CO gets skewered like a hot dog over a campfire, a cell door behind us drops open and Torque gets his first weapon of the game. I love this moment for a couple of reasons. Mostly, I love it because it's a shiv. It's the most iconic prison weapon of all time, so it makes complete sense that Torque's first weapon would be a sharpened toothbrush. Then the prison door is ripped from its hinges, flies across the room, somehow, and an eerie voice speaks to us once we step through. This is the first of many times a faceless voice speaks to us throughout the game. I really like that it almost implies all of this bad stuff is happening because of Torque's arrival. We later learn that Carnate Island has a deep history of horrific, inhumane things happening on it, but maybe Torque being there is what finally pushed the Hellions to the surface. Looking at one of the nearby security cameras, we're given a great fright. This was a great way for creating uncertainty for the road ahead. Watching the security cameras is another reoccurring mechanic throughout the game, but what keeps it feeling fresh is that some of the cameras have nothing to show, just a regular empty prison. So when your guard is down and you check the wrong camera, something terrifying will happen and it cuts deep. every time. Similar to the security cameras, another reoccurring gameplay mechanic is ringing telephones. It's usually different people on the line, but they're always speaking to Torque. Of course, with him being a silent protagonist, he never talks back. The first call in the game is from an unknown woman who's implying the island is much worse than meets the eye. I've always been a fan of silent protagonists, I think probably because of Half-Life, but games that do choose to have a non-speaking main character have to rely on the world around the player to create the story, and honestly, I love that. It helps the world around you develop in a very organic and natural way, which I've always felt left more of an impact on me as the player, like I was living it instead of playing it. The first of many times the game subverted my expectations is when Torque meets his first NPC. A prisoner calls him towards the way out, only to end up getting absolutely pancaked. This moment really caught me off guard and showed the cold brutality the game was going to continue to offer. The game very quickly makes it clear that terror can break out at any second, so don't get too comfortable, kid.
I think I'm safe in the night. You've got to get me out of here.
That's quite the assumption. The scarlet splatter that covers Torque each time the CO is repeatedly smashed into the gate is a sight to behold. Does Torque cover his face or even move? Hell nah, he doesn't even flinch, because he's a badass. On the topic of blood in the game, the gore effects were pretty revolutionary at the time. The developers were super excited about the ability of having real-time blood and gore, but I'll let them explain.
Well, the thing with blood is it's actually a lot like a shadow map in terms of projecting geometry onto another object. So we basically take our blood texture map, we figure out what objects collided with, and we send it through a projection matrix.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
We have everything from blood that sprays onto the wall behind you. We have the player actually will have blood spray onto him. You'll be covered from face to toe. We have the enemy that you're hitting, of course, gets damaged. You can lose limbs, you can lose your head. It really feels like you're actually doing physical damage to the world.
We hear a man on a nearby radio broadcast frantically speaking about spiders with swords walking freely in the prison, which explains the death row mass murder. We're then introduced to said spiders with swords in a very bloody cinematic that again showcases the game's awesome gore effects. These ugly things are called slayers, and they represent the horrific decapitations that occurred at the prison. All the enemies in the game are based off of awful, torturous things that people endured on the island through the years. I'll elaborate a bit on each enemy as the game introduces them, but it's a guaranteed way to have a one-of-a-kind enemy specifically tailored to your game in comparison to, say, zombies or ghouls. Oh! Directly after Torque's first fight, a screaming CO slams open a nearby door, and you, the player, have the option to kill him or to let him live. The game barely leaves you a moment to breathe. As you're making the tough decision on whether or not to take a man's life, the woman from the radio and the ghastly voice from before both speak to you. She tells you to let him live and the man to kill him. The angel and devil on Torque's shoulders. It truly adds to the weight of having to decide if someone lives or dies, and adds another layer to the immersion of the game. Deciding a character's fate is a reoccurring theme throughout the game, and is one of my favorite parts about it. It's a gameplay mechanic that's kind of common now, but in 2004, most games were still quite linear in their storytelling. It had me feeling like I was playing a unique experience just for me. What makes the suffering so special is that your ability to choose is in real time. There's no multiple choice options like in some games that offer text-based choice, like Life is Strange, Until Dawn, or Fallout.
Cute kid. Is he for sale?
It's on you to decide someone's fate while they're talking to you, in real time, just like you would in real life if you were, say, a retail worker during the holidays. It's a brilliant way to soothe the player into the game's storyline and allows the immersion to slowly wash over you. When you choose what some people would say is the wrong decision, Torque is immediately reminded that he screwed up when a flash of his family appears and they bully him for being a bad boy. I actually felt like I was a bad person who did bad things because I actively chose to kill him. Their words hurt. Continuing through the prison, the game takes a page from the Book of Resident Evil when we enter a nearby surgical room. Torque is confronted by one of the three main antagonists in the game.
I always looked at their bodies when I was done.
Okay. Most hallucinations are a past memory of Torque's playing out, offering us tiny hints of how we ended up here. We later learned that this gas man's name is Hermes, and he was the executioner of the prison for 27 long years, until he took his own life in the very gas chamber he used to run. Some sort of karmic irony or something. Quickly after meeting Hermes, we're introduced to the second antagonist in the game, Horus. In my playthrough, I selflessly electrocuted him over and over and over like a true hero. This was obviously the morally evil choice, and the flash of my family telling me so didn't feel very good. Horus was an inmate at the prison who killed his wife during a conjugal visit. Pretty messed up stuff. What makes him different from the other baddies in this game is his overwhelming feeling of remorse. He claims Carnate Island pushed him to do it, and he wants to help Torque come to terms with his own decency, hopefully avoiding the same guilt that he feels. We don't quite know it yet, but Horus will be an ally soon enough. A very morally gray ally. In this same room, watching the nearby security camera is an absolute must. Just be ready for your body to go into fight or flight mode and your butthole to pucker a little bit. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. After once again being scared by our mysterious thick boy that loves to Scooby-Doo run past us, we arrive in a large, suspiciously quiet room. Looking around, you'll find a statue blocking a nearby door. If you've played any survival horror game ever, you know exactly what to do here. While pulling the statue to hold open the door, you attempt to enter the adjacent room to hit the button that will open that door, but unfortunately it's locked. Or is it? I had done this a few times by this point, so I really wasn't expecting anything scary, and that was a huge mistake.
Damn it. I don't think he's authorized personnel.
I love how the game treats you like prey, manipulating you into lowering your guard, which allows the scare to hit that much harder. During this fight, an inmate broadcasts his pleasure with what's happening over the radio, and I loved it.
I done seen more dead CEOs today than I ever dreamed I would. And I want to say, they all
How much you want to bet they're doing weird experiments on prisoners?
is going on, but I like it.
Continuing his valiant effort in getting Torque to succumb to the evil inside him, Hermes forces you to watch a man slowly die in the gas chamber.
I don't really want to stop it. How do I stop it? I can't stop it, brother.
Nothing can be done about it right now, so Torque continues his journey through the prison and runs into Freddy Krueger. Not really, but the Slayer dragging his sparking claws against the walls has to be an homage to Nightmare on Elm Street. This is my video, and I'm saying what goes, damn it.
Please, God.
Once through the next door, we finally meet our gas man face to face.
I'm gonna go in there. Oh no. It's letting the smoke out. You fucker. Is he killing me? Oh, he's a big boy. Idiot. Enjoy. I'm gonna blast him from here. My bad.
Heading into the basement of the prison, we hear the voice of our last main antagonist, Dr. Killjoy.
I want to see the real you, Talk.
We don't have to wait too long to find out that he is in fact not a 1920s radio host, but a seriously deranged doctor of death named Dr. Killjoy, who stands among us via 16mm projector. He was the prison psychiatrist and surgeon, which is kind of a dangerous mix, I don't know, who ran an insane asylum on the island in the 1920s. He's fascinated by the darkness within Torque and is fixated on finding out what evil is lurking inside of him. This is the first scene that we see all of these antagonists together, and it plays out like some sort of pageant where each villain is trying to outdo the other with who is the craziest. We also learn who our Scooby-Doo friend is, and the answer is much closer to home than we thought.
Oh, I was that monster. That makes sense. That rat could have been a famous chef.
Torque then continues his journey through the prison until he runs into a Slayer that's apparently from the Matrix. Look at this guy dodge these bullets. Sheesh.
See you. Oh my god.
Just a quick side note here, I experienced a weird audio glitch where the noise of the whipping electrical cords echoed throughout portions of this level for a while. It wasn't too bad, but was kind of annoying. Beyond the electric cord orchestra, we run into a new enemy, the Marksman, a mutated, large, and in charge abomination of flesh and machine guns? Yeah, machine guns. The Marksmen have a number of machine guns growing from its back that unleash absolute hell. I'm not entirely sure what the bullets are made from, but we'll just say it's calcium buildup. Ugh. These handsome guys obviously represent the firing squad executions that occurred on the island. Later in the game, the marksmen rise from the ground tied to a stake, showing just how horrific these deaths were. One of the Suffering's biggest differences when compared to most survival horror games is the lack of puzzles. Moving the statue away from the door previously is kind of as hard as it gets. You know, again, they pushed action over survival, which I'm okay with. Torque eventually finds a valve that rolls open a nearby cell, revealing some sort of Nazi memorabilia room. He has a vision of two arguing soldiers talking about executing their own men. But with all the other messed up stuff happening on the island, I can't really say I'm surprised. We then run into Horace again, who continues to try and justify his actions and relate to us. Mutton Chops McGee.
Seems you are like me. You know just as good as I do. A crime of passion ain't no crime at all.
Yeah, that's what you get, you jerk. This chapter starts with a great monologue from Dr. Killjoy as he gives an inmate a lethal injection. You're only able to see it through the security cameras, which is kind of a neat touch.
When performing a lethal injection, it is essential that the needles be placed with absolute precision.
Oof.
And unlike standard medical procedures, with a lethal injection you have a patient who probably does not want the procedure to occur. Therefore, it is of vital importance that the restraints be tight and strong. Even with that, trouble may arise, and it may be incumbent upon the practitioner to take matters into his own hands, using whatever sharp-bladed objects he may have on his person. Lacerations to the body at strategic locations may put the patient into a state of shock, making him far more pliable, or at the very least, causing him to bleed to death, thus achieving the desired end. And who are we kidding? We're not really trying to be humane anyway. Class dismissed.
Immediately after, we run into Dallas, an inmate that Torque knows from a previous prison stint. This is another situation where you can let him live or die, but he seemed alright, so I let him live, and I'm glad I did. We follow him outside the prison, and he leads us through a horde of baddies. One of my biggest pet peeves in games is overlapping dialogue, especially when it seems important. The devs took the time to write and record these lines for a reason. We're supposed to hear it to enhance the story, whether adding to it or developing it, whatever. It drives me mad when one line of dialogue is cut off by another. With that said, however, these two lines cutting together was pretty funny and put words into Dallas's mouth that I don't think he'd agree with.
It's the government, man. They made these goddamn monsters, and you know what? I bet you even if we make it off of this rock, they gon' fuck, man.
We then meet the enemy that I would consider to have the best design in the game, but also is the most annoying at the same time. Its introduction scene is seriously cool though.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Cool. Damn.
These needle-addicted schmeagles are called mainliners, and they're supposed to represent death by lethal injection, obviously. They have glowing syringes sticking out their back and use them to kill their enemy by either latching on and stabbing or throwing them like glowing darts. I adore the cute little grunting sound they make when shot, like you accidentally stepped on a small dog's tail. Pretty cute. They really don't present much of a challenge by themselves, but they usually spawn in groups and are quite difficult when they swarm, like here in the showers. Checking the nearby security camera reveals what we unfortunately already knew. The worst monsters are real. They're human. Humans are the monsters. Down a set of stairs, we meet an unknown, terrified prisoner who asks Torque to turn the power back on and lock him in his cell. You know things are bad when someone asks to be locked in a cell without food or water. I guess the toilet bowl was pretty clean, but you get my point. Also, didn't like 5 people get killed in their cells at the beginning of this game? A mainliner then appears out of a blood puddle and attacks Dallas, who carries his own while delivering some pretty solid one-liners, I have to say. When the mainliners are killed, their blood remains acidic, which causes damage when touched. Just like the day when your entire family died, things don't go as expected when you run into a mirage of your wife.
Oh, hey, boo.
Twice I felt trapped, T. I just had to get out. The first time I didn't want conjugal visits. The second, I just wasn't ready to give up my own life, my chance at a career. I regret both times. You've been trapped your whole life, T. Gotta be strong, baby.
What the fuck? Oh, look at those shells fall slow-mo. How cool was that?
The path ahead is blocked by a raging fire, and you have to shoot the fire extinguisher on a nearby wall to put it out, which took me way too long to realize. Once past the extinguished fire, Torque hears another radio call which elaborates on the man who was executing people earlier in the security camera footage. We now learn that he is the warden.
That's the thing, motherfucker.
Heading back outside, you run into a group of prisoners that are not at all racial stereotypes. Things between Dallas and our new friends quickly escalate, and instead of waiting around to see what happens, I just took care of it. I love that this entire interaction with these guys would have been different if I had chosen to kill Dallas originally.
Whatever, man. Stop tripping. It's fucking chaos. We just gotta bust out of here.
Well, you think I forget, hombre? You and Byron thought you could hide that shit from me? Nobody sells meth, or crank, or H, or
I think I know what's gonna happen here.
unless Chico gets a taste. You thought you could play Chico for a fool, eh? Play me like a fucking bitch.
You gotta rat up your ass about some old news, man.
Fuck you.
Ciudadano!
The amount that your past choices affect future gameplay is astounding in an older game, and I don't know, I find it really impressive. T-Block is unfortunately blocked by a broken electrical outlet and a very inconveniently placed puddle of water, so you're required to find a different route. Backtracking a little bit will bring you to a shed that is full of ammo. Nothing holds a shooter game back more than running out of ammo, and fortunately, you will never need to worry about that in the Suffering. There is ammo everywhere in this game. From boxes of ammo sitting on the floor, to grenades sitting openly on shelves. I guess safety and security aren't all that important at a prison? I don't know. On the more difficult game modes, the ammo is slightly less plentiful, but you'll still will never have to use your shiv, for example, which is a bit of a shame. Beside that same shed is a wooden box that Torque pushes and climbs on top of to access the prisoner tower walkways. Pushing or pulling climbable items and using them to access different areas is a trend in gaming that hasn't really gone away. I think the Suffering subverts a lot of expectations, but there are a few pitfalls of gaming that it does fall into, but they're all pretty minor. I'll elaborate a bit on the bad later in the video, but for now, the good far outweighs the bad, so I'll move on. There are a lot of them, but one of my favorite sections of the game actually has nothing to do with scary monsters at all. The Suffering basically turns into Manhunt and shows us that humans, once again, are the true terror.
Oh man, you're here. You gotta save us before Hargrave gets back. You gotta cut us down. You gotta...
I don't think so. My prisoners never make it out alive. The time has come to wash the scum from the earth. This is my Armageddon. Lock it down.
The warden's machine gun fire is pretty easy to avoid, especially given this very conveniently placed bulletproof glass. He also has a few scumbags helping him fight, but I turned into a monster and just, smushed these guys like tomatoes. It was pretty fun. Once you land a few hits on the warden, he abandons his gun for some reason and decides to fist fight you. Kind of badass. I don't know, sort of based. I took care of him though, pretty easy peasy. Once you've snuffed the life out of him, a number of enemies spawn, and you get the incredible opportunity to jump on his mounted gun and blast your way out of here. Using mounted machine guns with unlimited ammo happens a few times in the game, and each time it's more fun than the last. We then make our way to the prison loading dock, which unfortunately is locked. Hopping on top of a nearby piece of equipment will lead you to the second floor control station, but not before you try to kill your already dead son.
You can't catch me! You can never catch me! Daddy, help me, Daddy.
Wait!
In one of video gaming's greatest cucks, once we hit the button to open the bay doors, they close before we can reach them, and we're forced back outside the prison. Ouch. If you've had one conversation with me about video games, there's probably a good chance that I've brought up how much I adore one-off story vignettes in video games. And by that, I mean in-game scenes that happen around you, the playable character that help build and solidify the realities of the world around you. Sure, having great weather effects or a cool cutscene or, an awesome soundtrack can build atmosphere, but when the world around me comes alive, that is the absolute cream of the crop to me. Being able to watch a quick scene play out completely unaffected is what makes good games great. 2 very sweet baby angel prisoners give their lives to try and save yours. Rest in pieces to them. Also a reminder to never stand on sewer grates.
No. You cannot escape what I bring about.
It was at this point in the game I decided to try switching the camera view to first person, which is awesome because not many games in the mid-2000s had both first and third person camera views. We had to wait 5 years for GTA 5 to offer first person on the PS4, and the suffering had them both built in by default in 2004. When I rented this from Blockbuster and had originally played it on release, I beat the entire game not realizing that first person was even an option, and I obviously missed out. I guess the text prompt was a little too blurry on my 9-inch CRT tube TV. 2 COs in a nearby tower see Torque and begin arguing about a spotlight. I guess this startled me because I instantly just shot them dead. Looking back, I think they were trying to help me by shooting the monsters around me, but these things happen and we're gonna move on. This is when the game introduces the ability to kill slayers under spotlight, which I was completely unaware about. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to melt them in droves, but throughout the game, we've been fighting them under pretty bright lights. Even at the beginning of the game, the CO who's tenderized on the cell doors had said, "I think I'm safe in the light," and he obviously wasn't. Maybe I missed something, but if the game made it clear that only the spotlights were powerful enough to kill them, it would explain the previous hour and a half, but it doesn't. After 2 guards lose their lives to a couple of slayers in a really cool cinematic, I noped out of there and into S block.
More bugs! You bastards! Go to hell!
I did really like how the Slayer leaped over the fence like a gymnast though. That's pretty fun. Looked cool, you know? Once inside, we realize S-Block has gone absolutely to hell. Guards sliced from the waist down hang by their necks, and an eerie message is broadcast through a nearby radio. I feel like prisoners uprising during the end of times is pretty realistic. In a life and death situation, you have to do whatever it takes to survive, and that includes both inmates and COs. Honestly, once the crap hits the fan, my name tag comes off and I go rogue. It could also just be my interpretation, and maybe this prison riot is just the inmates taking advantage of the situation and having a good time, but who am I to judge? We're then introduced to a new enemy type, the Noosemen, who, of course, represent all the executions by hanging that occurred on the island. These little guys obviously were inspired by the barnacle enemies from Half-Life, I think. We then run into an apparition of our wife.
Over here.
I'm pregnant. And that's not all. Look, it's over, T. You say you're innocent, but I don't know if I can trust you. I'm filing for divorce. You can't be a father in jail. I can't bring Corey here to visit you, or the new one. It's better if they just forget, for now. It's better for me, too.
I hope you've forgiven me, T. Things might be different if I had been able to hang on.
So, she doesn't feel safe around Torque, and again alludes to the fact that he hurt the kids. I can't help but feel like there's a part of her that's being pulled by the island and manipulating Torque, and another part of her that's fighting to try and save him with the truth. I really like the juxtaposition of good versus evil created by each of their phone calls. Continuing through the prison, we end up in a lunchroom where our good friend Dr. Killjoy locks us in and offers us a riddle to escape, like the sadistic monster that he is.
I see a glimmer of hope for you yet. A means of escape out from the black pit that continually sucks you in. Yes, show me how you work when the answer is not so direct.
In a nearby room lay a shotgun beside a headless guy, oof, and a sprinkler valve that begins to flood the room with water once turned. Remember when I said mainliners aren't tough, but are extremely annoying? Moments like this is what I was referencing. While fighting off these little gremlins, Torque has to push a vending machine over a grate in the center of the room, thus flooding the room and putting out the fire. The real-time physics of the flowing water was really fun to watch. It was super janky, but I was still impressed seeing flowing water in a game that's 20 years old. Admittedly, this part took me so long to figure out that I can only imagine the disappointment Dr. Killjoy was having while watching me walk directly into the fire twice, as if I was experiencing something other than burning alive. I will say that it seems sort of counterintuitive to have a sprinkler system that reaches everywhere in the room except where the fire is, but you know, what do I know? While making our way through the laundry area of the prison, we receive a phone call from Horace, where he continues to elaborate a bit on his backstory.
Yeah, baby, I got it. They agreed to the conjugal visit. I called in some markers with some of the COs, and they put in the good word. Yeah, they ain't all bad. Oh, baby, it just drives me nuts thinking about you out there in the world without me to keep you safe. I love you so f***ing much. I'll show you that when you come. I can't f***ing wait.
After totally poning a bunch of baddies, we pick up another ringing phone, and our son proceeds to really hurt our feelings.
Kids always ask me who my dad is. I just say I don't have one. I don't want to say he's in jail.
On a security camera in the room, we see him standing completely still by a pit in the floor, Blair Witch style. Falling for his BS, we chase him into the basement and through a hole in the wall that directly leads to a cave.
You would get so mad at us, and then you couldn't even remember. I never understood how you could forget.
This area does bring you back into the prison fairly quickly, but it will reappear as a larger section of the game later on. Back inside, Torque has to use a set of bunk beds to access the prison roof. I ran around and was a bit lost here until I noticed falling rain coming through a hole in the ceiling. A really subtle way to point the player in the right direction while ensuring the gameplay experience is still as smooth as can be. While climbing onto the bunk beds and onto the roof, I noticed a dead prisoner between the floors, which I loved. The devs really didn't need to put the corpse there since it only flashes for a brief second, and you know, it wouldn't have made the game any worse if they didn't put him there. But they did, and it absolutely makes the game better. Small details like this in video games give me so much serotonin. I love it. Once on the roof, Hermes makes another appearance and continues to push us into allowing the evils of the island to take over our body, mind, and soul.
I think you're a little indecisive. If you're going to do something, do it completely. That's the Carnate way.
We then startle a CO who runs in fear, like a giant baby, and of course we give chase.
Ah! Lord, protect me!
That poor man is terrifying. He's a
coward.
He begs for his life while hiding under the stairs like Harry Potter, and I chose to let him live. I was starting to notice a trend that when given the choice of killing someone or not, I was letting the prisoners live and killing the COs. Whatever that says about me, I don't know. So I decided to change that, and honestly, I'm glad I did. He's pretty cool. I did accidentally throw a flashbang at him while talking to him, but thankfully it didn't change how we felt about each other.
If you keep him...
He's weak. He should be.
Now, the only idea I have is that we gotta call for help.
We follow him back outside, and the path ahead is blocked by a number of slayers that seem to be spawning from a nearby tree. Don't make the same mistake as me and try to kill them one by one, because they just keep respawning. Turn the spotlight on and face it towards the walkway. Our CO friends' repeated screams of agony here were pretty comical. I guess the devs didn't want to spend all their budget money on recording multiple screams. I get it, no shame here.
Why don't they ever stop?
Once the spotlights clear the bridge, we find a ladder that leads down into the prison yard. Before heading down, I suggest preemptively aiming the nearby spotlight at the hellish hole in the ground, and you'll see why shortly. At the bottom of the ladder lay a locked door and a number of explosive tanks. Oh, and don't fall down the ladder and die while your family craps all over you. It sucks.
Oh my God in heaven! They killed him! Oh God! Oh God!
You're up, Corey. Oh, I don't want to.
Arriving at the bottom in one piece, you continue to get roasted by your family who shame you for being a terrible father. I don't know why I laughed there.
Corey always wanted to play with his father, but where were you?
And now, you'll see why I pointed the light towards the hellhole. There is also a number of explosive boxes laying around this baseball diamond that I realized way too late were there, so just keep that in mind during this battle.
You must be an angel from above, an angel of vengeance.
I'm vengeance.
Across the baseball diamond is a radio room, where the game essentially becomes Fallout when we're giving a generic quest that sends us to an asylum to stop signal interference.
Listen, you see, there's no way I'm leaving this building with things like there is. So you're the ones gotta go to the asylum. There's a map right there. You'll need to go through the old quarry to get there. You can get out of the prison by climbing up to the roof right above us.
I'm not a huge fan of head to A, something's wrong at B, head to B, something's wrong at C, head to C, etc. type storylines. I feel like they tend to run on a bit, but to our luck, the asylum is right next door, and to get there, we hop from roof to roof, Tremors style.
You gotta get to the asylum. Something's not right there.
Once you absolutely wreck the fools inside, we head into the prison cemetery, which isn't scary at all.
I was innocent.
This section of the game really pushes the spooky, supernatural side of the game. The cemetery is lined with glowing coffins and heavy fog. I thought it looked pretty good, honestly.
It hurts so much.
Dad was never there.
The bad man caught her.
This was your life, T. How did you let it get away?
There's also really low frame rate crows that I thought were pretty funny. Just outside the cemetery, we run into a group of COs who immediately start attacking you. In my playthrough, they acknowledged my weapon and immediately started shooting at me, so I'm not sure if this would have played out differently had I not been armed. I'm definitely curious to know if it played out differently, so please let me know in the comments if it did. An attacking group of enemies come, and you can let them kill the COs, but my finger was on the trigger, so I just started blasting. As we make our way down this gloomy, pretty sad cliffside, a real-life graboid tunnels beneath our legs. It doesn't attack quite yet, so feel free to let the horrific potential of that simmer. After a small battle, we arrive to the next major level in the game, the quarry. This is where we find out what was crawling between our legs through another awesome cutscene. In my opinion, the enemy introductions in this game are flawless.
Damn!
These bad boys are called burrowers, and they're supposed to represent the prisoners who were buried alive on the island, which is kind of messed up. We then quickly meet another enemy type, the Infernas. These little brats are the spirits of children who accused a group of people of being witches, which ended up in them being burned alive at the stake. This moment was just a tease though, as we'll soon discover their true, very annoying potential. One of the more viscerally messed up hallucinations happens when we see a number of COs letting inmates die from a cave-in.
Watch out! Cave in! Inmates, they're not worth the trouble. Let them rot.
I thought Torque quickly snapping out of it and seeing the old crusty dried up corpses was a really nice touch. Just a moment later, we see the opposite happening, this time the inmates getting the W. It's almost like there's evil in all of us, huh?
Gotta get payback! It's too good for those fuckers. Let's skin them alive.
After saving an inmate in a seriously janky animation, we have our first real meeting with the Shining Twins. That's what I like to call them.
You saw the devil. He's close. Don't let him get you.
While the enemies thus far have been mostly of a monstrous nature, these girls bring a much more supernatural element to the game. After the dramatic, fiery doll show, we use our finely developed and honed crane skills to knock over a water tower which extinguishes a fire and unblocks the next area. Why there is a giant water tower built deep into an abandoned quarry that still seemed to be in use before it was abandoned is beyond me, but the cutscene's pretty cool. In a similar fashion to past enemy introductions, we're then teased with a flash of a new enemy, the Festers, who are reincarnations of slave traders who ran their ship aground and left their slaves tied up in the ship to be eaten by rats. In a short time, we'll find out just where exactly it crashed, and the answer may shock you. It's the island. They crashed on the island. Apparently, the suffering influenced Souls-like games because now enemies have multiple phases as you fight them. Sort of. On the grounds of the asylum, we're confronted by multiple slayers who now glow. We do find out why they're glowing soon, but for now, they just get back up after being killed, thus turning them into annoying bullet sponges that cannot die, which eternally is dead, so I suggest you ignore them and just move on. Once we enter the asylum, Dr. Killjoy locks us in by projecting a gate over our exit. This is a pretty creative way of stopping any backtracking and forces us to only move forward. Most games would just lock the door as you pass through it or just simply not give you the ability to open it, so the projected light show was kind of a nice touch. The doctor welcomes us to the asylum, which is clearly his home turf.
I am not certain we have been formally introduced. Talk, isn't it? My name is Killjoy, Dr. Killjoy, and I will be your
He's got his degree.
this fine evening. Welcome to the Carnate Institution for the tragically troubled, the impossibly insane, and the diabolically disturbed.
Destroying the only visible projector in the room unlocks a nearby door, which brings you up a set of stairs and onto the second floor of the asylum. The first room you go in is pretty horrific, so viewer beware.
It is so difficult to tame the brain. Sometimes it needs a little jolt to behave.
The mood drastically changes when you meet the coolest, calmest CO in the game. It also helps that he's totally stoned and listening to heavy metal.
Come in, please. You come in. Yes, come in. Yes, come in. I not lock you up.
He's a disgusting addict.
Whitaker, Kennedy, Scott, they all went out. Try to find out what is happening. Me? I say why. I hear the sounds. Boom, crash, ah! I've seen some things through the doorway there. Things I don't want to see again. Understand? I stay right here. We're safe. And I have pipe to keep me company.
He can help you find what you need.
Blow his head off.
I didn't think getting high during a time like this was all that unreasonable, so I let him live. He does ask you to find batteries for his radio, but I couldn't resist moving the story along, so I just got out of there. Sorry, stoned dude.
And so, my favorite subject arrives. It is in this room that all the secrets will be revealed. I will employ an experimental device that helps me chart the undiscovered country. But you can't come to the show yet. First, you must prove to me that you truly want to be cured, and that you truly are worthy of my time. See you soon, I hope.
As Killjoy continues to monologue, we head upstairs and find a padded room with a completely mutilated CO inside that isn't quite dead, apparently. I even shot his head off to help end the suffering. I said it. But he continues to gurgle, which made me curious exactly where those gurgles were coming from, because all he had left was a neck hole. Back downstairs, we run into Torque's mutant form, caged like an animal. Turning on a nearby machine, the beast is attacked by some sort of bright light and turns back into Torque before disappearing. It's almost as if the purple light was feeding the evil within Torque. Almost. The reoccurring theme in this game of flashing quick hints of what's to come and then ripping it away from you, in my opinion, it's quite effective in luring the player to continue with a full diaper and sweaty palms. Next up, we head to the attic and lower some sort of elaborate hanging machine. To do so, we have to turn a nearby valve slowly as waves of enemies attack. Gotta love a holdout mission.
Alas, the golden age of radio has passed us by. Who would care to broadcast only on the audio spectrum of human perception when it is the visuals that can truly enrapture an audience?
There's 2 projectors in the attic that are pretty easily destroyed, so just take care of them and it'll unlock the attic door so you can go back down. But before heading back down, do yourself a favor and take in the fallen portrait of this terrifying child. It kind of reminds me of that painting meme, but like, you know, way cursed. We then head through one of the previously locked doors that was locked by one of the projectors in the attic, and inside we find a CO laying in a chair with some sort of weird contraption on his head that apparently doesn't stop bullets. Whoops. The asylum's gameplay loop is a bit of a repetitive puzzle where you have to find hidden projectors that are blocking your exit and destroy them. I'd be lying if I said I didn't find it a bit monotonous, but the final battle in the asylum made it all worth it.
At last, you have made it to the
An operating room in the asylum.
Let me introduce our newest player. This fascinating specimen is a creature of purest strength and rage, whose presence here is proof.
My guy always looks so calm and just chill.
These other soulless beasts cannot be denied, but he is altogether harder to truly understand. But with the capabilities of my experimental device, I can bring about a rebirth of the spirit, a reawakening of the soul, and thus we can shed light on this most unique situation. Why not come inside, and I shall show you.
As we're trying to survive and shoot the nearby projectors in the room, the enemies are now purple and are respawning, which is kind of annoying and adds nothing to the game. The doctor dares you to test out his purple machine, so you do so, obviously, and you become Grimace, I guess? But just kidding. You get the exciting rebirth power, which gives you the ability to shoot a mystical ball of energy, which is a great power that you don't use the entire game until the end pretty well, because shooting is more fun. Oops. After really pissing Monster Torque off, he smashes a window and jumps out, and we follow. Outside the asylum, we find what I'm going to assume is the Stoner CO's drug cabin. Inside is a number of smoking supplies, and outside is just like a straight up grow op. This dude is hard. How did he keep this job? There must have been such a good union.
I'm a growing weed.
At this point, I think I've made it very clear how I feel about this game. I love it, but it isn't perfect. And the next section of the game kind of dragged for me. The level design in The Suffering is sort of unique in that you can pretty well backtrack through the entire map if you wanted to for some reason, but in the same open world sense, there are sections of the game that you don't necessarily need to explore, but can, for better or for worse. Some of these unnecessary sections are great, like this cave with a fun NPC interaction and a cool weapon at the end of it, but in this upcoming section, you can hear my frustration of being led down a path only to be doinked by an annoying battle and nothing more.
Everyone just needs to relax, man.
The game does rectify the monotony a little bit by introducing a physics-based mechanic when torque is required to unblock a truck, forcing it to roll down into a nearby river. With that said, don't stand too close, because getting hit by a truck apparently hurts.
Come on, dude. Nice.
The next portion of the game, pretty well up until the end, resorts to dropping wave after wave of enemies upon us and becomes much more shooty than the previous portion of the game. I'm sure the developers did this to enhance the endgame experience by making it more of a challenge, but it definitely made it feel more repetitive. Killing 5 enemies over killing 10 enemies isn't any less enjoyable. You know, I'm still getting that experience. So just loading the enemies on me like this, it's just a lot.
You afraid of something?
It's nice in here, Daddy.
Dad can't swim.
Daddy, you gonna swim with us?
After a super out-of-the-way battle that your terrible kids lure you into, a situation that you don't necessarily need to go to, which is what I was talking about, kind of a waste of time, we're required to backtrack towards the creek where the truck fell, and we can climb back up onto the fallen truck. On the other side of the river, we run into an inmate that was probably in prison originally for like burning an orphanage or something. This guy's crazy. Oh.
This way, hurry!
On to you, brother.
Another human still among
Oh yeah, dude. I stole all your shit.
I've been plotting my escape from Abbot for years, and I had hoped to carry out my exodus tomorrow.
Oh.
But these recent events have ruined everything. Here, I'll show you.
Make him bleed.
He can teach you a lot. See what he has to say.
Kill him, kill him, kill him.
Nah, he cool.
The game then continues the tradition of introducing a new enemy by showing us just how much scarier it is than the previous enemies through a cutscene, which I really like. It's like a food chain of baddies.
What is that? New enemy type. Oh no. Oh, he's huge. Yeah, I agree with that. Oh,
Look there! Do you see? Coming out of the waves? I swear it is the most hideous thing I have ever laid eyes upon.
yeah, they're not that big.
The big boy festers we previously saw begin creeping out of the water one after another. When killed, the festers release a family of rats that for some reason chase you and explode when they jump at you, so be warned. Ignoring the enemies and heading down the beach a bit, we find the decrepit slave ship and learn the history of Carnate somehow continues to get more messed up than we previously thought. Before heading deep within the ship, head through it so you don't miss our friend's hilariously sad attempt at an escape boat on the other side. As crappy as this boat is, you can actually help him escape the island on the boat, which is really cool. Heading back to the ship, you're offered a little surprise, and inside the ship lay some of the worst horrors of the world. Through a flashback, we see the previously mentioned tied up slaves, and it's pretty horrific.
Oh, jeez. Oh. Really messed up, man.
Heading on top of the ship is a seriously crappy situation, I guess you could say. Gross. That's poo and pee. Heading into the piss tunnel, Horace once again makes an appearance at the worst time, but he does finally reveal that he might actually be here to help when he opens a locked gate for us.
They playing games with you, Torque. They playing games. Oh shit. That's this schmuck again. Guy needs to get a grip.
This place wants you, Torque. It needs people like you. Once it gets a hold of you, it won't let you go, like it hasn't let me go. I've been here a damn long time, and it's sucked me dry. I pray it's almost done with me. It's sending something after you. It let you out for a bit, now it wants you back, deep inside. Deep inside where I've been all these years. Don't say I never did anything for you.
You will see shortly that the only idea the developers could come up with to give Horace a character arc was to get him to open gates for us, because it happens more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times? Heading through the now open gate, we're attacked by a parade of exploding rats that fall from a tube in the ceiling, which is really gross. I suggest you do your best to avoid them and just run through the sewers as quickly as possible and let them kind of explode all over your ass. That sounds weird. To put it lightly, they're disgusting and swarm like the damn plague. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but once back in the prison, a burrower crawls between Torque's legs and tears up the floorboards, which I thought was a really cool effect. This area might look familiar because it's one of the first sections of the game. I generally dislike backtracking in video games, but this section offers an extended scene with the Nazis and quickly gives you a new route to a previously unexplored section of the prison, so it was fine.
The hell they are!
Jesus.
If internment camps are a good idea out west, then it's a good idea to shoot crouch spies on this coast.
With that said, hearing those goddamn wires whipping around was kind of annoying, as I thought I was past it. Continuing through the prison, we hear our son coming through a nearby door.
Daddy, help me, Daddy. It's so dark in here. What's going on?
I'm coming, boy.
Daddy. No, I don't want to see
What the
it. No. Daddy, no!
I'll give you one guess as to who opens the previously locked gate for us. I told you I'd keep my promise, this fucking guy.
Oh, just to fucking sleep. I think you're my last chance, Torque. Don't let me down.
Can hear you past the whipping, sorry.
A cutscene soon triggers and a boss battle begins with our freshly acquainted acquaintance.
It's starting again. It never stops. It just keeps burning. It won't let me go.
Oh no.
Whoa. This is basically a boss battle, and we're required to shoot the electrical boxes surrounding the room to stop the electricity from killing him. We do our best to help Horace, but I couldn't help but feel like there was no reason to. He continues to blame the prison for killing his wife and doesn't seem to accept any blame himself. Can there be forgiveness without change? Who's to say? You might feel different, and that's just fine. Also, this is just a video game, so...
Okay, here we go, here we go.
I just wanna die.
I'm trying to kill you, homie. I think.
Thank.
Why am I saving this guy? Good night, sweet prince. You piece of shit. Oh, fudge. You okay, handsome?
A nearby phone rings, and your wife offers some words of encouragement?
T, listen to me. You gotta get out of there. That island's more than just a prison. It's so much worse. It brings out the worst in everyone. Get out of there, T. Run! Run as fast as you can!
Traveling all the way back to Death Row, which was the start of the game, you see your wife and kids locked up, and they're saying some really kind of, rude things. What the hell?
Is that you, Daddy?
Who said that? Where are you, kiddo? There you are.
Are you gonna let us out?
Hell no.
Are you mad again?
Hell yeah.
I gotta talk to you. Don't you want to see me? We didn't need you. Everything was fine until you came back.
Alright. I deserve that.
You always let your anger get the best of you. Why don't you try to help someone for a change? You're almost there.
What are you saying? Supposed to, repent my sins or some crap?
As I've previously mentioned, as much as I hate backtracking, coming back to the start of the game under new circumstances kind of felt like a full circle type situation, and with the wall blowing up offering a new route, I guess it was kind of cool. Through the hole in the wall, we run into a large fire that blocks our path. I ran around for a few minutes before realizing that the wall to the right of the fire had a giant hole in it that leads directly outside. In my defense, the dark hole isn't illuminated at all, and I don't think I'm stupid for missing it. Outside, you run into a fight between 2 COs and a couple of festers.
Oh, you guys are dead.
One of the officers lives, and I'm sure was going to help us find a new weapon, but whoops, I killed him.
Maybe the rats will eat this guy instead.
Continuing backtracking through the prison, we arrive at the radio building where our friend was not so safely hiding, apparently. Poor guy. The now fixed radio chimes in, and we're baited into going to a nearby lighthouse. And we're off. Remember before when I said not to stand too close to rolling vehicles? Well, apparently I didn't listen to my own advice because I was killed after setting a bus free on the wrong side of a slanted driveway. I think maybe a bomb went off. I don't know.
What the hell was that? I just killed myself! Birds. Told you not to come around here! Where? What kind of flying is that? We're flying in 8 FPS.
After these terrible birds lagging on apparently dial-up internet, we get an unexpected visit from the gas man that absolutely wrecks a couple of prisoners without really doing anything.
Watch out! Up there! Oh, Christ!
Ooh. How am I supposed to kill the gas bad guy?
Escaping isn't as simple as just getting outside. But I don't
It's like tough guy ASMR.
You know there is no real escape.
I mean, true.
To the right of where the truck went off the road is a hidden path that leads to the world's deepest puddle.
Are you fucking kidding me?
If you're lucky enough to make it past the puddle, you'll eventually find a mounted machine gun on a set of bluffs that offers one of the most ridiculous, repetitive shootouts in the game.
For betraying the United Enough, weapons to the ready. Take aim. Fire.
I love this game, but this goes on for way too freaking long.
What the f is this piece of
The devs just learned what copy and paste was?
You continue on into a World War II fort, which explains the vision of Nazis.
World War II fort? What the hell?
Obviously, some pretty awful things happened on Carnate during the Second World War. We are then finally given the chance to fight this mysterious gas man that has been torturing us the entire game.
Finally, you are here. You interest me.
His eyes closed? He looked half asleep.
Because you understand how it feels. They needed someone professional to pull the switch. A lot of eager sadists applied, but I was the only one who took the work seriously. So seriously, I wanted to taste the gas myself. That's what carnate does. It brings out the killer inside. It's the perfect place for you and me.
Alright, Mr. Monologue.
It took me a minute to figure out, but the vents in the room all spew poisonous gas. We're required to close each vent before succumbing to the fumes and dying, which, not surprisingly, pisses off Gasman enough to reveal himself. Bullets don't do much, so you have to cover all of the vents he's appearing out of, besides the one in front of the fireplace, giving him no choice but to come out the one in front of the fireplace, turn the vent on, shoot him into the fireplace, boof, bing bang bomb, he's dead. Or is he?
Yeah, do it, now. See you in hell.
Busier. My talents.
Nice.
Yes. That's it.
That boy ain't right.
Once you quote-unquote defeat him, which I'll get into later, a ladder then unlocks, and heading up it, we realize the fight took place in the basement of the lighthouse, where we needed to go, which is pretty convenient. The way the game transitions us between sections of the island so cohesively and smoothly, it's pretty impressive. Once in the lighthouse, a radio message plays out informing us that the rescue can't come until the lighthouse is operational. This is a two-part mission, the first being that we have to unblock the gears at the top of the lighthouse, and the second being that we have to go turn a generator on that's nearby. Heading outside the lighthouse, we again meet our favorite CO, who helps us in our first fight with the triplets, albeit not very happily.
You! God damn it, what are the chances? I survived 10 hours out here in this pit of hell, and I had to run into you? The scum who killed his own wife and children? Why, Pendejo? Huh? Why you do it? You going to kill me too? Come on and make me, I dare you!
Him before he kills you.
Wait, he's just confused.
I chose not to kill him, as leaving the NPCs alive has actually helped me out quite a bit by this point, and I'm learning.
So it turns out you don't have the cojones to kill me when you have the chance. You f***ing inmate. Go to hell, I am done with you.
He'll shoot you in the back.
Give him a reason to trust you.
Once we arrive at the site of the generator, the game pretty well throws every available enemy at you, and definitely gives endgame vibes here.
Inmate, you have done it! The lights are on. Oh, let's get back to the lighthouse and leave this evil place.
Sounds good, dude. You lead the way, because I've forgotten how to get back.
Following the CO, he leads us to a battle that elaborates a bit on who the triplets are.
This is some pretty intricate level design.
Look.
Holy shit.
Inmate, what are they doing?
The roses, pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes.
Witches.
All fall down.
Jesus. Oh, threw a grenade.
He also leads us to a somewhat hidden cave where 3 prisoners are hiding.
Hey! What are you doing here?
We're cool,
you said
dude.
no one would find us.
Shh, keep your voices down.
Who are you?
Don't worry. We're still safe from those girls.
You didn't lead the creatures in here, did you?
Been waiting.
Grenade.
I felt so bad for causing all of their deaths, but I don't think I would have found the cave if I had killed the CO, so the extra little story was a great touch that I happily enjoyed. After turning the generator on, we head back to the lighthouse, and shooting away the gears illuminates the lighthouse, and we're in business. Rescue can now see the island, and we have to head to the boat docks where nothing at all bad is going to happen, I swear. Our favorite electric gate opener returns and, believe it or not, opens a gate for us.
Did I already take care of this guy?
It's not just Abbot. It's this whole island. It's a cesspool of human
Sorry, what was that? I was looting.
People come here.
You're probably having the same thoughts as I did. Didn't I just kill this guy? One of my biggest gropes with the game is after everything is said and done, and you've killed all 3 of the main bad guys, you unfortunately learn that all your efforts went to waste since none of them actually died. It almost feels anti-game to not offer the player the satisfaction of winning. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. For what feels like the 10th time, the girls return with my boy.
Oh, no, that's my boy. My boy!
Hey, these girls taught me a new game. Do you want to play, mister?
Not really.
On our way to the docks, I accidentally hit our CO friend with a Molotov, and he immediately turned on me. So I just took care of him. It's not my finest moment.
Oh shit, sorry dude. Whoa, that like...
Colors, eh, mate? I knew I should never have trusted you.
Are you kidding me? Wait, is he shooting me? Because I threw a fucking Molotov at him? Whoa, dude. What an asshole. I thought we were like, you know, accidentally shooting each other this whole time.
Inside a confined bridge tunnel, we have another battle with the little girls. Again, I thought this was the end of them, and again, I was wrong. Even after being fake defeated, the girls still find a way to ruin our day by blocking us in with fire. Using our previously learned drainage strats, clogging the nearby drain causes flooding that puts out the fire. But don't forget that steam is still very hot.
Are you kidding me?
As is the reoccurring theme with the other enemies, the gas man returns. Yay.
Wait, I thought I killed this son of a bitch.
You still need some help.
Mouth breather.
In the lighthouse, you showed me just how good a killer you really are. But you don't know anything. Go on to the dock, where you'll see how things really are.
Fortunately, he inadvertently provides Torque a path to the endgame. Hey, finally.
This perfectly bus-sized cavern.
It only makes sense that our one and only Dr. Killjoy, who's been ruining our life up to this point, would make another appearance. This time, he essentially explains how to use his machine to beat the game in the following scene. A white knight who is here to save us.
Ahead you will encounter something altogether unlike what you've seen before. But I have something that can help you. A device that can cure you, put your demons to rest. But only if it is sufficiently powered, and only if you are in your more, shall we say, primal form. Use this correctly, and you cannot help but be cured. You do want to be cured, don't you, Torque? It's up to you now.
Dr. Killjoy then disappears, and our son leads us down towards the docks, where we finally get some answers.
Right.
I heard Mommy scream. And what happened to Corey? He was so mad he pushed me under the water. Why, Daddy? Tell me why.
I really like here how there isn't just a long-winded story dump that finally gives us answers to what we've been waiting all game to find out. Did Torque really kill his family? The beast version of Torque appears, and once you kill him, he turns into Torque, and anytime you hurt him, it hurts you. I thought this was like a fun little metaphor.
Nice.
I showed you something, didn't I? I wasn't gonna let you have us, not after what you did. You killed her. You always screw things up. You never knew your own strength. And Corey never forgave you for going to jail that first time. I guess he just snapped. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. But you gotta think about what you do. Now you're in trouble, T. You've gotta face down that anger inside. Make it go away forever.
Well, it was fun, until it wasn't. The dock's bridge collapses, and all hell breaks loose. Talk about an actual boss fight.
What the hell? Oh boy. Okay, now what? Die, bitch. Big splash. Nice. All right, here we go. Some answers.
In my playthrough, I got the neutral ending, but it didn't feel all that neutral. It only makes sense for the neutral ending to be more bleak than the bad ending of most games, considering the themes throughout the suffering. Honestly, I originally thought this was the bad ending, as you can see why. So in the neutral ending that I got, Torque accidentally kills his wife when he pushes her during an argument. In some sort of horrific, messed up revenge, your older son finds out what happens and kills his little brother before jumping out the family window, ultimately unaliving himself. After the big reveal, Torque knocks the boat driver out and steals the boat. So I guess he's off the island. The good ending, which, yeah, it's not great. Torque didn't kill his family, but was set up. He was set up by a crime lord from a previous prison sting and had his family murdered and paid off the judge to convict him for life. Yikes. So Torque is innocent, but his whole family is dead. So I mean, it's still kind of not a good ending, really.
The Colonel sends his regards. Back in Eastern, he warned you, but you didn't listen. He said to leave you alive. Only you. Enjoy your new life.
With the good ending, once the flashback ends, the boat we've been waiting for pulls up and the guard lets you know that Torque is going to get a second chance at life. I guess that's the good ending is, you know, he escapes an innocent man, even though I don't understand how they would all know that he's innocent. So I don't know why this guard lets him know that he's going to get a second chance at life. And now for the bad ending. In the bad ending, it's revealed in the flashback that Torque did actually kill his family. And the flashback ends as he turns into a monstrous creature, destroys the getaway boat, and runs back onto the island. In my opinion, implying that he is now part of the island forever. What's kind of interesting here is there's a photo after each ending, and the neutral and the good ending, the photo is clean, but on the bad ending, the photo is covered in blood. So that's it. The Suffering took me about 5.5 hours to complete, and in that time, it had many ups and, you know, some downs too. To answer my original question, was The Suffering as good as I remember? Yes. And no. All the best parts of this game that I remember were just as good playing through them now. The game story was just as unique and mature as I remembered, and the enemy designs still look really, really good. Carnate Island has to be one of the best single locations in video game history, but at the same time, there was quite a bit of bad. Part of what made this story unique is the way they chose to tell it. As a player, we basically played the entire game not really knowing what the hell's going on, with the prison and with Torque. We never really find out why the monsters are attacking the prison, nor do we find out if Torque is guilty until the last couple minutes of the game. The game kind of played out like a documentary TV series that slowly drops breadcrumbs at the end of each episode to keep you coming back, and eventually revealing who the true killer is in the last 5 minutes of the last episode. Is it a totally effective way of telling a story, and do I completely eat it up every single time? Yes, absolutely. But does it take advantage of the viewer's time and energy to dangle different story beats in front of us like starving dogs to keep us playing? Kinda, right? My biggest gripe with the game is how disheartening it is that we aren't actually able to kill any of the main protagonists. Having us kill them over and over and over only for them to reappear began to wear on me, and kind of made each time I killed them less satisfying, and each fight felt less effective or meaningful. To add on to that, once I left the asylum, the game really slowed for me and began to feel really, really repetitive. I know a lot of these older games were designed to be repetitive to stretch playtime, which I did mention previously that I can empathize with, but this game had me edging so freaking hard each time I thought I killed one of these main bad guys. I also found myself rarely using Monster Torque, as it was generally more effective to just mow enemies down. I also like shooting guns in video games, so maybe that's just me. The game kept trying to push Monster Torque into the story with the rebirth power, the final boss fight, the asylum fight, but it never really clicked for me. The first few scares are great, but once you find out who the monster is and can control him, some of that allure to play it gets lost. For those of you wondering whether Monster Torque was real or just in his head, the game does provide those answers, but it's very subtle. Throughout the game, you can find notes that offer some additional story and elaborate on whether he's real. In these notes, it's revealed that no one actually can see the monster, and that Torque essentially blacks out and goes into full rage mode. So the monster is, I guess, a metaphor for his anger. I'm kind of complaining a lot, and I don't really want to get lost in a sea of negatives because they're totally overshowered by the countless positives. The morality system and the way it affects the story is really impressive for an older game, and to be honest, it still kind of holds up mechanically and feels natural to play. At release, the hype for The Suffering was real, but it quickly died once the sequel was released, The Suffering Ties That Bind, which I never actually played, but I probably will after this. The second game received decent reviews, but most players complained it was too similar to the first. As well, a movie was also planned, but after the sequel didn't perform so well, the idea was scrapped, which honestly kind of sucks. I think it's a huge shame, because Carnate Island and the story of Torque would be a killer movie. the time of this video release, Monolith Studios does still own the rights to the game, so let's hope one day, by some miracle, they introduce a new suffering to a whole new generation. Alright guys, this was a long one, and if you're still here, thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed this slice of nostalgia, and thank you for sticking it through all the way to the end. We would really appreciate if you liked the video and maybe subscribe to the channel for more. So hopefully, we see you in the future. Let me know in the comments below if I got anything wrong here, if the game sucks, if the game's perfect. Let's talk about it. But yeah, thank you so much everyone once again, and we'll see you on the next one.